What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gen Z Money Podcast, where we turn financial peace to your reality. I'm your host, James Bowman. And guys, this is going to be part two of Justine's interview. I really hope that you guys enjoyed part one. We definitely end up going down a bunch of rabbit holes that weren't planned, but it was definitely something that needed to be discussed. They hard conversations that people don't want to have. Prenups is a really hard conversation that not many people want to have. And so instead of having the hard conversation, doing the difficult thing, they'd rather ignore it. So, she shared her story about her struggles and how she's gotten to the mindset she is now. And now, with this portion of the interview, we're going to go into depth on the correlations between fitness and finance. So, a lot of times we're always using analogies on this podcast about, the similarities between, getting fit and getting financially wealthy because they have a lot of core values that translate over. So we're going to dive into all of those. And then, of course, we're going to go into Justine's goals, plans for the future, and how she plans on getting there. But this is part two, guys. If you guys didn't listen to part one, make sure you go back to last week's episode and listen to that. You'll get a taste of Justine's explosive personality and her realness, and it'll be a great transition into this portion of the interview. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, Justine. So let's get into, well, that was a lot. Okay.
Right.
So let's get in, start talking about the correlations because I bring it up almost every podcast. There are so many different finances reaches to every portion of your life. So the same principles you use in finance, you can also use in fitness, your spiritual life, your marriage, your every other thing. The lessons remain the same regardless of the categories. So I wanted to really talk to you about how the correlation between finances and fitness. So there are tons of different things that, if you develop this habit in your fitness journey, you can also correlate to your finances journey. So the first one I had named was prioritizing, right? So what is your opinion on like prioritizing your finances in relation to your fitness?
I subscribe to this and I say this all the time. Like you aren't wealthy if you aren't healthy, right? So in my mind, I put those two together because if I prioritize my health, I know that I'm going to make better decisions financially. And when I prioritize my health, I can prioritize my wealth. So for example, every single morning I get up, I have an espresso shot, and then I head straight to the gym, right? And that has become a priority for me because I know that if I show up and I stay consistent, right, I'm going to see the results. And so it's the same with finances. It's the same with wealth. If you show up, right, and say, for example, showing up could be dollar cost averaging, could be putting money into a savings account, could be, buying a share every Friday or whatever it is. If you make that a habit and you prioritize it, then at that point, you're being consistent, right? And that nothing is going to change that. And so I often think, it's like people come up with excuses. I don't have time to work out. I don't have time or I don't have, I forgot to deposit money into my savings account. It's not about whether you have time or it's not about whether you forgot. It's just that you didn't prioritize those two tasks. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't prioritize saving or you don't prioritize investing, you're not going to see the results you want. If you don't prioritize going to the gym every morning or working out or doing yoga or whatever you do, you're not going to see the results that you want. And so that's how I bring those two together.
Yeah. And I think you create time for the things you care about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if you're able to carve out that time to go to the gym, then you can also carve out that savings as soon as you get paid, right? It all goes back to, what do you value? What do you care about? And unfortunately, you might say you care about one thing, but your actions will reflect otherwise. So if it's not a priority for you, that's fine. I'm not going to judge you for it. It's not my cup
Exactly.
of tea. But don't sit here and tell me like, oh, I can't save money or I can't find the time to go to the gym. Well, why don't you carve out some savings? As soon as you get paid, put $50 ahead. Oh, no, because I'll need that money later. No, 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 no. If it's gone, you won't need it. The same way you can wake up 30 minutes earlier and go to the gym, or 45 minutes earlier and go to the gym. You can carve out that time if you really want to. So, for example, for me, I've started making gym more of a priority for me. And I normally wake up for work at 4 a.m. and I get to work about 5 a.m. I have a 45-minute commute. And I was just trying to figure out where to carve out that time to go to the gym. So what did I do? I started waking up at 3:30, and now I get to work at 4:30. So that gives me a whole extra hour. I'm sorry. I wake up at 3:30 and I get to work at 5:30. So now I have an entire extra hour to stop at the gym on my way into work, get my workout in, and then go to work. So it's all about creating priority in your life and carving out the time for these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always think to myself, like, you make time for the things you want to make time for, right? At the end of the day, we all have 24 hours in a day. So how are you prioritizing your day? How are you prioritizing your tasks and your time? Right. And so I love that you shared that you were like, listen, I got to change my schedule, my wake up schedule, so I can hit the gym and be able to get this in. And so I think that's really important. It's just the same as like every Friday, I spend just like about an hour and a half in the morning, and I go over my finances and I just pay myself first. That's what I do every Friday morning when I get paid, because I get paid every Friday and then sometimes I get paid throughout the week. But I put time aside on Friday mornings to make sure that I pay myself first, because it's a priority. It's a priority,
Yeah.
So
Anybody who, it's very hard to believe someone who says, I can't do this, if it has not become a priority in their life. Because in my opinion, anytime that I've prioritized anything in my life, I've always found a way. And if that means taking away from something else, that means I have to prioritize this less. That way I can prioritize this more. So we all
yeah.
have the same 24 hours. But the next thing that you mentioned, Justine, is consistency. And I think that this is probably, I'm going to say, the second most important, and we'll get to the most important a little bit further down the list. Can you talk a little bit about consistency when it comes to fitness and finance?
Oh, 100%. So I'm gonna start with fitness. My goal, right, is like I'm gonna deadlift 260. That's my goal, right? And I set that goal first. Originally it was 255, but now I'm like, no one can do 260, right? I set that goal last year, and you'll see on my Instagram, you'll see it on my Twitter. I literally post my progress. So every time, even when I failed, I posted it, because I was like, I'm showing up every single freaking day and I'm gonna hit 260. So I say this, I'm not gonna wake up one morning and be like, okay, time to hit 260. It doesn't work like that, right? Like, that's my goal. I'm not gonna hit that. So what do? I show up every single day to the gym and I practice, right? And so I stay consistent. And so now I'm at 245. I hit that like a week ago or so. And that was a big deal for me, because I'm like, I'm getting closer to my goal. And I think that's what's important, is that when you show up every single day and you put in the work and you stay consistent, you're going to see the results. It's not one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm a deadlift 225. Woohoo, I hit my goal. And then I take, a 3-week break. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, now time to hit 260. It doesn't work that way. You got to work every single day and stay consistent and show up so that you can see the results. Right. And I'm sure this too, dude. Like, let's say you're working out and you've built muscle and you take a break, you'll start to notice like, damn, my cardiovascular is starting to, woo, it's starting to take a hit. Or you'll notice like, I lost some muscle mass. Yeah, that's what's going to happen when you stop. You know what I mean? So when you stay consistent, that's going to help you build your muscle, going to help you build your endurance, help you keep you stronger and keep you on track to hitting your goals. Now, when it comes to money, it's the same exact thing, I mentioned this earlier, dollar cost averaging. I'm a big advocate of dollar cost averaging. I think that helps make investing a lot easier as well, because every single month, I'm not timing the market. I rather just say, all right, putting my money into this index fund. And I know that in the long run, if I stay consistent and every single month I put in X amount of money into this index fund, I'm going to see the results that I want to see. So I don't believe in just doing like, okay, I'm gonna wait till it dips and then I'm gonna buy, or I'm gonna wait till I have $1,000 so I can invest. No, if you keep waiting, you ain't gonna see the results, y'all. It takes action. So that's where consistency plays in the financial space as well as in the health space, is that you just have to show up every single day, even at your worst. Even when you're feeling crappy and you just don't want to go. Man, there are days when I don't want to go to the gym. And what I'm saying is also this, by the way, take a rest day. Y'all don't need to be in there 7 days a week, going full throttle. But I believe in rest days as well, that those are important. But I'm saying stay consistent, and show up. Overall, you're going to see the results that you want. And I say the same thing when it comes to investing and when it comes to money.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, because it's like the same way that you just said, like if I go to the gym once a week and I work out a different body part every single week, yes, I'm being consistent, but I'm also not I'm not going to see progress as fast, which is fine. People do that and it's fine. You're building up that consistency. Maybe you go once a week, then you go twice a week, then you go 3 times, and the consistency picks up. But this thing about investing is like, the only way to really beat the market is to be consistent, to invest every single month, whether the month is down, the month is up, whether you blow a tire this month, whether you have to pay for clarinet lessons. You have to be consistent over the long term, because at the end of the day, that's the only way to beat. And you can't build wealth just investing here and there. You have to make it a routine. I think I love to use that word, a routine.
Absolutely. It's like no questions asked. Y'all want to go to brunch on Saturday? Let me look at my budget and see if it fits. And it's crazy. I just posted on Twitter this post and it blew up, man. It went viral. And I put my checking account, $600, my investments, 131K. You know what I'm saying? And people read that and I got all kinds of reactions on that post. And, I wrote at the very bottom, I was like, few will understand. Because what they don't know is that my emergency fund is fully funded and I've already paid my bills and I've already paid myself. You know what I'm saying? But I have $600 in my checking account. And now that's just money that can go towards whatever I want to do. But I don't go all the way down to zero. But I've already paid myself first. I've already have a fully funded emergency fund. You know what I'm saying? And I've already dollar cost averaged and put my money into my investments. So if that's left over in my checking, that ain't bad, y'all. Right? You know what I'm saying? So I just stay consistent. I stay consistent and I leave it. $600 is whatever I'm going to have until the next time I get, at the end of the month or next time I get paid or whatever it is. But it's so important that you stick to your plan. You know what I mean? You stick to your plan, you stay consistent, and you just show up every single day. I keep saying that, show up, but it's so important. It's so important.
So let's talk about measuring the progress, because this is a big one that a lot of people, in my opinion, are doing wrong, at least when it comes to finances. How should people be measuring their progress when it comes to fitness and finances? Because you have to measure the progress. You have to see where you are and where you're going.
Right, exactly. There's that expression, what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, right? And so I definitely measure my progress and for both my finances and both my fitness goals. Like, for example, right there on the whiteboard, you can't really see it, but it has my deadlift, right? It has my deadlift dates when I hit my next PR, whatever it is. So I'm tracking my progress that way. When I'm in the gym lifting, and if I go heavier, I track it, I write it down. And I kid you not, when I was doing bench, because it's not my favorite, but I still do it because I understand wholeness, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I can't have these like great legs and then weak upper body. No. I believe in the full package, my friend. Okay, the full package. So I remember doing bench, and when I hit, what was it, 105? I kid you not, I got up in the middle of the freaking gym and I was like doing the happy dance, and I was celebrating, and I did not care if someone stared at me and looked at me like, dang, this woman is crazy. I don't care, because guess what? It's my journey. It's my journey, not yours. I don't really care what you think. You know what I'm saying? Because I just hit a goal and I'm celebrating this win. And I think, you know what? There are people out there who don't believe in celebrating the small wins. I am the opposite. I think it's really important that for every little win that you have, you celebrate it. And for some people, it's a little win and shouldn't be celebrated. Wait till you get to the finish line. You know what I mean? But when you celebrate those little wins, you build momentum, right? And you get excited and you want to show up like, oh my gosh, I did it. Next step, how can I do this? And so for me, when I did that bench, I did my little dance. It was crazy. I was like dancing. My boyfriend was like, okay, yeah. He started laughing. He thought it was funny. And I'm like, cool, and I just remember like thinking, okay, next week, let's go again, like let's try it again, right? So celebrating those little wins and then measuring it and writing it down is so important, right? It's so important. And it's the same thing for my finances. When it comes to your finances, your money, I have this like beautiful spreadsheet that I created, and I track my net worth. I track how much money I make in dividends each month, and I track how much I make in my side hustles. For me, it gives me such a beautiful like overview and also in-depth, like comprehensive tracking system of how my money is being managed, right? What's coming out, how much my net worth is this month, how much I made in dividends. And let me tell you something, when I see from my February dividends total to my March dividends total, and I see that jump by $100, I'm like, oh yeah, because I know I'm getting better. And it just reinforces and reminds me that y'all play the long game. Play the long game. Because when you're measuring your progress and you can see you go up and down, if you look at the bigger picture and you look at that forest, instead of looking at the tree, you can see your growth. And so again, and that really ties into consistency and priority though, right? You need to tie in those other two things that we talked about.
It's so crazy that you answered the question that I literally just typed out, which was like, how can people deal with setbacks? Because I'm sure you've had setbacks in the gym where you might hit 105 one day, and then the next day you come back, you're struggling with like 95, and you have these setbacks. So you think like, oh my God, I done lost it. I'll never get there. But then when you zoom out, right? You zoom out and you're like, wait a minute. I used to struggle to hit 70. Now I'm struggling to hit 95, and I'm absolutely like mind blown. And it's the same thing about, looking at your finances, looking at your portfolio. Like, oh, my portfolio is up to 70,000. You check it like, whoa, okay, now it's down to 60,000. But then you step back and like, wait a minute, I didn't even have a portfolio, 3 years ago. So it's like, So I love that you threw that in there. Being able to step back and realize, like, okay, yes, I might have stepped down a little bit, but let's look at the whole graph, right? Let's look at from where I started to where I am. I'm not that far back. I might have taken one step back, but I'm a mile ahead of where I was.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always like to tell people that. I'm like, look at the tree. I mean, look at the tree, which is important, right? When you're looking at a specific task, that's important too. But then when you do have a day when you're feeling like, what happened? When you're thinking like, I'm having, this is not a good day today. I just lost X amount of money in the market, or I couldn't hit 95, right? Pounds. If you look at the forest though, and you look at the actual progress over time, you're going to notice. And if you stay consistent and you prioritize these things, you're going to see growth. You're going to see growth. You got to see the bigger picture there. So yes, 100%. It's important to look at the trees, but it's also important to admire that forest, really admire how much you've grown. Because you're right, James. Shoot, I think to myself, man, it was 2 years ago. If I look at my little spreadsheet, it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was at a zero net worth. I'm not even kidding. That was me trying to build up again and come back from all those those drawbacks that I had, the ones I shared with you. And then to go from a zero net worth to now 131, like, I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate. So I think that's another thing I really want to point out about bad days and setbacks, you guys. How many good days did you have in order for you to finally get a hit on a bad day? You know what I'm saying?
Girl, you better preach to the people in the back. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, right? Not all, but you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm gonna say right now. How many good days did you have leading up to this one bad day, y'all? And then guess what? Guess what? If you were to bet on yourself, how many times did you win that bet that you got out of that bad day? 100%. 100%. Because guess what? You had good days after that, eventually, right? So I can't stress that enough, y'all. Just when you are having a bad day, just remember it's a day, and it does not have to be a week, a month, a year, right? Like, it does not have to be like that. Like, you just it's how many good days did you get through to experience that setback? You know what I mean?
That is absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe you just said that's like, it's like you had, like, literally, I think about it like the market. Like, you look at how many green days you've had, or how many green years you've had. You've had 7 green years, and boom, you have one red year. And you're like, oh, nope, that's it. I knew this was a scam. I just lost. Like, okay, so you're telling me your money has quadrupled. You lost 10% of it, and now it's just a big old scam.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, I can't even add on to what you just said. It's phenomenal. Okay, so here is the one that I think, the correlation between finance and fitness, that I think personally is the most important. And I mean, you can share your opinion on it. Is what is motivating you? Like, what is your motivation behind doing what you're doing? Because when it comes to building wealth, you're really not doing it for yourself. I mean, you might be to a certain extent, but there's like an apex to where once you get to a certain wealth level, now you're doing it for other people. You're doing it to be able to give. You're doing it to be able to do the things that you want to do, get your time back. So I think having a strong why is probably the most important when it comes to finances and to fitness. What is your opinion on that?
Okay, so this is a big topic for me, and I love that we're going to talk about this. First things first, again, I talk about health first. We live in a society where there are cultures that pressure their children to have children. Okay, so I'm going to use that as one example where it's like, oh my gosh, when are you going to give me grandkids? Oh my gosh, when are you getting married? I'm getting old. I want to be a grandfather. I want to be a grandmother, you know, all these things. And then, you know, you feel bad because your mom and your dad are saying that to you, or your parents are saying that to you. And so many, so many people fall into that, like, damn, I got to give my parents a grandkid now because they're getting old. I don't subscribe to that. I think that's very unhealthy. Personally, I think that's a very unhealthy motivation and just relationship to have. And so I share that with you because for me personally, I prioritize my health because I want to live a long and healthy life. I don't want to live a long life. I don't want to be 102 and like not be able to enjoy the finer things in life. Give me a shorter life and a healthier life instead of a long and unhealthy life. You feel me? So that is why, that's my biggest motivation, is that I do not ever in the future, I never want to be that person, that parent that says, can you have grandkids now, please? I'm getting old. I can't walk anymore. And you know, this XYZ. I just don't ever want to put that pressure on someone, because guess what? I should be pressuring myself. I should be pressuring myself and wanting to be a better version of me so that you can enjoy the healthy Justine. You get what I'm saying? I just think now, like, there's just so where parents or people are dependent on their children to take care of them. And don't get me wrong, I'm Filipino. You know what I'm saying? Like, we take care of our parents. Like, that's part of our culture, right? But I think it's also, and I will do that for my parents if that day ever comes where they need that. You know what I mean? And I do that now, right? My brother and I are there, first ones there for our mom and dad. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I want to make sure that I'm the healthier version of me so that you can enjoy the healthier version of Justine. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the strong motivation that I have when it comes to health. Is one, I want to be a healthier version for not just myself, but also for the people around me and in my life. I never want to be some kind of burden to them. And then also number two, James, I'm not trying to live an unhealthy long life. You know, I'd rather just be healthy for as long as I can and live a good quality, healthy life versus being in a wheelchair and doing things like that, that it doesn't allow me to be, you know, that and live a long life in that capacity. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. When you put it into perspective like that, it's like, no, I'm not going to use that example. That's a bad example. Yeah, you put it into pretty example, like a break. You put it into a great perspective when you say, like, I'd rather live a shorter life but enjoy it than live a longer life and dread it, essentially. Because when you're super duper unhealthy or you live under the poverty line, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It is very difficult, but you need to choose your difficult, because it is difficult to get in shape and it's difficult to be unhealthy. It is difficult to get wealthy and it is very difficult to live in the poverty. So you need to choose your hard.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give an example. So I used to live in New York. I lived in Harlem and I did not have a gym membership. But you know what I did? I would go for a run. I still remember it would be raining and I'd be running. You know what I mean? It'd be snowing and I would still go for a short run if I could, right? Obviously, if it's snowing really hard, I'm not going to be doing that kind of shit. But but if it's enough for me to just get some movement, then I'm going to make time to get my movement in. You know what I mean? And so you're right, James, like, choose your heart. Are you just going to be there and accept like what has been given to you, or are you going to try to change your life? And I prescribe, right, to changing my life. If I can find a way to be a better, a healthier, wealthier version of me, I'm going to take that route, because I know that at the end of the day, the end goal is that if I aggressively invest today at 33 years old, and I want to have my time location, my financial free, like my time freedom, financial freedom, and my location freedom, I'm going to have to do those things now so that I can have that later. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's the same with my health. It's the same with my health, always prioritizing my health and just remembering that the best gift you can give to someone is yourself. So what are you going to give to someone? You're going to give this like negative, unhealthy you, or are you going to give someone that's happy, joyful, right? And just positive, right? So that's why that's how I think about things. I'm like, damn, may I never be a burden financially to someone or health wise to someone. You know what I mean?
That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. So the next correlation that I drew between finances and fitness is patience and trust. So when I look at it finance wise, anytime there's a get rich quick scheme that comes up, I know it's a stay poor long scheme. And so and when you're investing, they have a saying, past performance does not indicate future gains. Everybody says that it's plaster on thing, but all we have to look at is what process have others used to become wealthy. And we just have to trust and be patient and realize, and of course, be consistent and prioritize. But we don't know what the future, we cannot guarantee the future. So what is your opinion on that? Because a lot of times I run into people who are what I call hopeless, meaning they don't view the future as positive. They view the future as a negative, like the country's gonna go into nuclear war and we're gonna have a famine. So what's the point of investing now if in 50 years our country is just gonna be completely decimated? Or what's the point of working out now if I'm gonna be dead in 30 years anyways? So like how do you approach that? Because it sometimes it makes me hopeless to think like I can't believe that there's nothing I can say to change this person's mind.
Change your mindset. I can't even, you're looking at me like, what does that mean, Justine? Listen, your mind is the most powerful thing that you own. The most powerful thing that you own. And I say this, like, let's say, for example, I give you a quarter. I give two people a quarter. One looks at this and says, this isn't enough. The other looks at it and says, oh, I can save this. What was the difference between the two? The mindset, right? So I can't stress that enough. Before you go investing, before you go like change, like wanting to lose weight, gain muscle, whatever you want to do, you need to check your mind, check your mindset. Where are you? And do you need to shift it? It's hard, James, because what you just talked about right now, I know people like that, where they're just like, me, it sucks. They have this victim mindset, right? This victim mentality, like, oh, I could never have that. And I would never be able to do that. I would, I can't make extra money. Like, yo, your mindset is killing you. That's harsh. But your mindset is literally killing you because you're over here telling yourself that you can't do shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you're over there telling yourself you don't believe in yourself. And so I know it's not, for some, that's probably not the best answer, but you need to literally change your mindset. Because again, it's how you see things, it's your perspective. You know what I mean? And so once you can deal with that, and you know how you can change your mindset? Look at your environment. Look at your environment. Man, I can't stress that enough either. Who you surround yourself with plays a massive role in your financial and wealth journeys. Massive role. Let's say, James, someone listens to your podcast right now and says, you know what? I'm gonna start investing today. But then they go back to their circle of friends or their group of people who don't invest, who think investing is risky, who thinks investing is stupid, who thinks investing is not worth the time. because they don't make enough money. If you keep yourself in that environment, they're going to influence you, and then they're going to keep you down here instead of bringing you up here where you are wanting to be. So who you choose to surround yourself with plays an important role. And it's the same when it comes to your health journey. If you're around people, there are statistics, there are numbers out there, studies that show that if you are around people who are overweight, you are more likely going to be overweight. So if you change your circle and you start surrounding yourself with people who share the same vision as you, who share the same goals as you, who share the same curiosity as you, you're going to elevate yourself, baby. You're going to elevate yourself, and you're going to allow your mindset starts to shift. Because the reality is, James, even though it's so important that you got to do it from within, you got to want that from within. If you want that from within, you've already tackled that, which is important. That's the first thing you want to tackle. The next thing you need to tackle is your surroundings, y'all, is your environment. Because if you're trying to fight 10 people who are against what you believe in, it gets so fucking tiring. It gets so tiring. Excuse my French. Can you imagine? You just have one little you, and you trying to fight a war against 10 other people who are against what you believe in. So what you got to do, right? You got to change the environment, because that environment's not going to change itself. You got to take yourself out, and you got to put yourself in a place where you can flourish and where you can grow. So I don't know. I think I kind of went off topic there, but like, does that make sense?
No, it does. And it goes right back to you have to choose your hard. So
Right.
if you are somewhere that you don't want to be, you have two choices. You either stay there and you deal with that hard life of yours where you are where you don't want to be. You're surrounded by people who are just like you, or you need to change your mindset, change who you hang around. Yes, you might lose friends. You can try. You can always try. Hey, man, we should both invest, and we should both hold each other accountable, put this amount and grow. And there are some friends that'll be like, you know what, man, I never thought about that. Let's do it. Let's give it a try. Yes. And there are some friends that are like, no, that's stupid, man. Like, we got beers to buy. I can't put that money in. And you will lose friends. The same way in the fitness world, if you are dedicating an hour a day to going to the gym and your buddies are like, no, dude, I'm not going to the gym, dude. We got a new keg. You know what I'm saying? Drink up. It's like you are going to lose friends if your goals aren't aligned, and that's okay. Like, that's what I try to express to the listeners. It's like, it is okay to outgrow friends. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It doesn't mean that you don't want the best for them. It doesn't mean that they're terrible people. It just means that your values no longer align, and it's good to grow. It's good to not be the same person you were 5 years ago. That's why I always suggest, I'm sorry I'm going on a rant, but I always tell people from my hometown, I'm like, listen, get out of there. Get out of there. Move somewhere else. Move to another city. Move an hour away. Get another, change your environment, because it is going to change you. As long as you're surrounded by the same people doing the same things, you are not going to change. Okay. Yes, you might lose friends. I have tons of friends back home I still stay in contact with. Some of them are still doing the same things they were doing when I was there, but that doesn't mean they're horrible people. It just means it's just, I'm sorry to go on a rant, but it's super duper. Like, you have to choose your hard, and you will lose friends along the way, but that's just a part of growing.
Exactly. And please do not apologize, James. Like, I love what you're sharing, and like, I don't even think it's a rant. You're just dropping wisdom and knowledge, and like, y'all need to hear it. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I love it. You don't have to apologize. But
but the episode's about you, Justine.
No, we're in this together.
Absolutely. So the last one that I had, the correlation that I could think of is being realistic. And it kind of goes back to the last one about patience and trust, but you have to understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. Justine, you didn't get in the shape that you were in 1 week of working out. And your portfolio didn't happen overnight. Like,
Right.
you have to be realistic with your growth, and you cannot expect to you can't Joe from the Stack and Benjamin podcast, he dropped so much great wisdom. He said someone told him, do not compare my middle to your beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to look at you in your fitness journey and say, you know, oh, I can't do that because of where she is. Like, I'm comparing the middle of your journey to the beginning of mine. And you would never do that with finances. What's your take on that about being realistic about, the plan you set out?
I think what's really important, and I mentioned this earlier, we walk the same earth and we breathe the same air. We have the same 24 hours in a day, right? We have those similarities. But I also recognize that not everyone has the same resources, right? And so being realistic, to me, what that means is you look at your resources and you make realistic goals from there. That's why it's tough. You want to be like, it's great to be on Twitter and Instagram and you see these like personal finance influencers and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's incredible. I'm going to be that. I want to be that someday. And like, I shout out to all of those influencers. Like, I love that. But at the same time, I also think it's important, put your blinders on and stay in your lane, right? Put your blinders on and stay in your lane. And just remember, like, and by the way, y'all, you don't know if someone gave them money. You don't know, you know what I mean? You just never know what someone's journey looks like until you really talk to them and you get to know them. And so when you're setting those goals for yourself, take a look at what you have in that current moment. And then from there, develop a plan and take action, right? And so that goes for your finances and that goes for your fitness journey as well. I follow both, right? Like I follow fitness influencers, I follow personal finance influencers. Like I just listen to everything and everyone. And when I look at these fitness influencers, for example, I think to myself, I'm like, wow, she looks good, right? She looks good. And I'm like, instead of looking at her and saying like, oh, I wish I was like that. I instead, again, mindset, I say to myself, I'm going to get there. How am I going to get there? I'm great where I'm at now. You see what I'm saying? And I think all those things that we talked about having a strong motivation, consistency, measuring progress and priority, that all ties in together and being part of being realistic goal. You know what I mean? So again, I just think it's really important that you put your blinders on. I used to tell my students that, put your blinders on and stay in your lane. Focus on your journey, because guess what? James isn't living your journey. Justine's not living your journey. So-and-so is not living. Your mom and dad aren't living your journey. I think that's really, really, really important. Like your journey is yours for a reason. And so it's super important that you just focus on that and keep your motivation and vision in front of you so that you don't forget what you're there for, your why. Does that make sense?
No, that makes 100% sense. It does. Are there any other correlating topics that come to your mind that kind of relate between the finance and fitness world that I didn't mention or we didn't go over?
We hit, gosh, I think even the ones that we talked about just talked about all kinds of different things. But I if there's any correlation, really, I think it's just important that you stay in your lane, you set financial boundaries, you set physical fitness boundaries as well, and block out the noise. I think that right there, like block out the noise. You can do when it comes to your savings and your investing, your financial situation, and when it comes to your health journey. A lot of people, you're going to be getting things like this from all kinds of directions, bringing you down, maybe telling you that you can't do it, they don't believe in you. I think it's just really important that you block out the noise and you consistently show up. You consistently put money into your savings account if you're building an emergency fund. You consistently invest if you're trying to, you want to buy more stocks or shares or whatnot, right? And it's the same when it comes to your fitness journey. You just continue to show up every single day. And if someone is telling you that you can't do it, block out the noise and you stay consistent.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. And there are always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people telling you you can't do it, or that, you shouldn't do it, or whatever. But what you have to realize is they're just projecting their thoughts
Right.
onto you. They think because they can't do it, that you can't either. And that's why you have to block that out, because as soon as you put up that mental roadblock, whether you think you can do it or you can't, you're right. So if you think I cannot do it, so I shouldn't try, you are absolutely right. You will never do it. But as soon as your mindset changes to say, you know what, this is possible, I can do it, it's done. I mean, and that goes back to the mindset thing. So, all right, Justine. So let's talk about, because you already talked about your deadlift goal that you hope to accomplish within the next 6 months to a year. So, do you have any other finance goals that you hope to accomplish, or fitness goals that you hope to accomplish within the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, so short-term money goals for me right now, I really want to fully fund my HSA, right? So I want to fully fund, and so I'm building up to that and making sure I'm taking advantage of this tax advantage account. Y'all, I started filing my taxes, and when I put in my HSA contributions, like I saw how much money I owed drop significantly. And for me, I'm like, that's a win right there. You know what I mean? So really, that's like my biggest short-term money goals, is just saving up and fully funding my HSA, and then saving up for some traveling that I can do. Right. So those are my short-term money goals for now. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the listeners that don't know, we've talked about the HSA before. It's just a health savings account. It's a tax advantaged account that you can use to pay for healthcare expenses as they come up. I'm pretty sure it. I don't think it has any income limitations, but it has insurance coverage limitations with your deductible and premium and things like that. So you guys can check it out if you're eligible. But like she said, if you contribute, that income is no longer taxed, and it'll lower your adjusted gross income for the year when filing your taxes. And I'm not going to go too far into filing taxes, but if you guys are trying to hire someone to file your taxes, just make sure they do them right, because I almost got messed up this year by someone who didn't know what they were doing. And that's all I'm going to say now. I'm not going to put them on blast, but we got it fixed. But just know they messed it up. So don't just trust anybody to file your taxes, even if they say they're a professional. All right, Justine. All right, Justine. So, what are some of your long-term finance goals that you hope to accomplish within the next 5 to 10 years? And what does the finish line look like for you?
So I'm 33. I want to retire at 40 years old. I keep saying it. I posted on Twitter. I've said it to my parents. I've literally said it to my partner. I'm like, listen, I'm 40, I'm done, y'all. I'm done. And when I say retire, I put it in quotation marks. I think sometimes people are like, oh, you want to stop, like you want to stop working at 40? For me, when I talk about retiring, I'm not necessarily talking about I'm going to stop working, because I think that's what society has taught us, is that retirement means we stop working, we can enjoy life now. No, 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 no. I still want to work. I still want to do things that I absolutely love. You know what I mean? When I'm talking about retirement, I'm talking about time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. Like I want to be able to not have to think about money or where I'm working or what time I have, right? Like if I have children someday, I would like to be able to spend that time with them. I want to be that mom that's going to be home and has her like little business on the side, but is also still able to pick her daughter up or her son up from school. You know what I mean? I want to be able to spend time with my partner. I want to be able to travel the world. I want to be able to like sit in a cafe, run my business, and like in Portugal. You know what I'm saying? And so it's things like that where I think about, time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. And so that's my long-term goal right now for my finances, is that I aggressively invest, right? And I stay the course, I stay on track, I stay focused, laser focused without distractions. And then also really, I don't know, James, if we might have talked about this maybe on Twitter or not, but ultimately one of my biggest goals I want to do is I want to build a school in the province where my parents are from in the Philippines, right? And so that school is going to be focused on financial education and just really helping, helping the young kids there understand that, you don't, you're not stuck. And I want to share something with you. In a lot of these countries, and it's not just the Philippines, but if you look in Southeast Asia, what you'll notice is that a lot of these young girls are given away to like older white men. And I have to say that because that's generally what it is. And they get married off to these white men, and they do it because they don't have money at home in the Philippines. And so when they marry the white man, they get a better life, and that's what they're taught. Or, a lot of Filipinos, like they have to leave their families in the Philippines and they have to go work in like Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, and in different places, and then send money home to their families in the Philippines. And for me, if I could create a space where I can hopefully influence and motivate and teach that there are other options out there, then that would be like the ultimate like happiness for me, is that knowing that you don't have to be married off to be financially okay. You can be financially independent. And you can live a happy financial life. Not to say that they're unhappy, because I just want to get that really straight. Let me tell you something. Filipinos, for as little as they have, they give the most. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world to see. Like literally they'll have like one last bowl of like, I don't know, rice or whatever. And it might be their last, but they're going to give it to you. They'll be the first to give it to you. And it's beautiful. It's humbling to know that. So that's really my ultimate goal, is being able to build that school in the Philippines.
You said a bunch of things. I really want to go back and just emphasize a couple of them. So, and it's kind of scary that like as I type out questions, you answer them. So I kind of think you have like a tracking device going on my computer. But the first thing was when you put retirement in quotations, right? What essentially you're describing is just being work optional, meaning
Right.
like if you don't go to work, you will be 100% fine. So I definitely can relate to that aspect. And when it comes to your goal of building a school in the Philippines, I think that is so phenomenal because I say a lot on the podcast, like wealth gives you options. And a lot of people say money doesn't buy happiness, but the people that say that haven't given enough away. I mean, when you're able to do things like give away free education to people or build a school and give resources, that is just a different form of happiness. And, it's very unfortunate to hear that the reality of Filipinos is growing up to become a wife to an older, more wealthy white man just to have some sense of financial security and financial freedom. And so giving someone the option or giving them an answer to say, there's another way, let me teach you another way. I think that brings it to a level of it's uncomparable to anything else, at least that I can think of. So I really want to commend you for that because that is awesome. But unfortunately, the truth is that because you said Filipinos are so giving, um, if you give away all of your bricks now, then you won't be able to accomplish that goal of building a school. So it's not being selfish of you because you want to hold on to your bricks, you want to invest your money and do all that. Because people might listen to this podcast and say, well, if she wants to give back to people, in the Philippines, why doesn't she just do it now? Why is she hoarding all this wealth? It's like, no. I am growing something for myself. That way I am in a much better position to give back to others.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that you said that, James, because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't want this to be twisted. I think it's so important. If you only have like 100, like if you're building your own wealth, you don't necessarily have time to be paying for everyone else. You see what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where it's like, I get it. Like you want to be generous and you want to give your money away, but like if you don't even have $100 to your name, you shouldn't be giving away your money. And that's one of the things that I've learned here in America. And perhaps that's something that's also important to teach others as well. You know what I mean? And you're right. I think you brought up a very good point about how like Filipinos are really giving. And I love that about them. They're so generous and they're so kind. But I think it's also important to be able to say, like, okay, this is also mine. You know what I mean?
yeah, like there was this documentary around the homelessness in the United States, and one of the
Yeah.
points of the documentary was that homeless people are some of the most giving people, on in the country. And in a lot of cases, that is how they became homeless, is by
Mm,
giving away the shirt
mm,
on their back, giving away the money that they could have been using to support themselves and their households. And it's really, really heartbreaking to think this person ended up in this situation because they were too giving. They literally gave the shirt off their back. And so I always suggest, like, I think giving is amazing, and I'm never going to be the person to tell someone, you're giving too much. It won't come out of my vocabulary, but I will be the person to say, okay, if you give this, what is it going to do for your household? What is it going to, is it going to cause problems later down the road? And if the
mm.
answer is no, then that is your decision to make. But if the answer is yes, if I have to take food out of my family's mouth to give it to your family, the the intention is pure, but the execution is questionable. And I think there's always another way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
But Justine, let's go ahead and get into the final questions of the podcast. And of course, I ask these questions to every single guest that comes on. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Question number one. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to have financial peace. What is your definition?
When you know where your money, like where your money is going, and you have priorities, you have financial peace, right? And so being able to be in control of your money and understanding where it goes and how it's being used and what it's doing, I believe that's financial peace. If you don't have to ask questions like, oh, that $5, yeah, that I bought Starbucks the other day. Oh, that $125, yeah, I just bought Nike, the share, a stock. You know what I mean? So when you know where your money is going, you don't question where it's going. Like, I think that's financial peace because now you're undisturbed. You know exactly where your money's going and what it's doing.
Yeah, you make me love this question because I ask it to so many people and it's always different, right? Some people find peace with their bills being paid on time. Some
Yeah.
people haven't found peace until they are work optional. But you found peace in just knowing I am 100% in control of my money. And
Yes.
that brings you peace. And that is phenomenal. That just proves that peace can be found on so many different steps in your financial journey.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%.
All right, Justine, question number two. If there are listeners out there that want to start building wealth and have no clue where to get started, what would you tell them?
I would say fear and procrastination are thieves. Okay. Fear and procrastination are thieves. So you need to absolutely believe in yourself and you need to change your mindset. Believe that you can achieve financial independence. Believe that you can lose 10 pounds, believe that you can, be a healthier and wealthier version in you of yourself, right? And then start taking action. So, for example, speak to a financial coach or a financial planner, read personal finance books, listen to personal finance podcasts, health podcasts, right? Read about health and talk to maybe go to the gym. And if you should show up to the gym, maybe talk to one of the reps over there. Just start asking questions, right? And really identify what your goals are, make a plan and take action. I think I mentioned this before. Also, just be fully aware of your environment, because once you've made that mindset shift, you want to be careful of who you surround yourself with or what your environment looks like, because as you try to grow, what you used to put yourself in, what you used to plant yourself in may not nourish you anymore, because you're trying to grow a different direction. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to building wealth, that's what I want to say, that fear and procrastination are thieves. You got to start now and start asking questions. Just be inquisitive. My dad used to get mad at me when I was a kid, because he'd tell me something and be like, why? Why? Like, but I don't understand why. I still remember until this day, I had this one time, my dad was like, Justine, you keep asking why. I'm like, I know, but I want to know, and some people find it annoying, but I think like when you ask questions, that's how you learn. And then I would say also this, as you're taking in all this information, take it from different perspectives and then find out what works best for you, because I think some people will prescribe like keto diet is the best, or carnivore diet is the best, or for example, you should lift every muscle group every single day, or whatever it is, right? Learn from everyone, and then you choose what you want to apply to your journeys.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. Matthew Meyer on one of the podcast episodes, I think it was podcast episode 15, he said, take what you want, leave what you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
You don't have to listen to every single thing someone says and agree with 100% of everything that someone says in order to gain value. Like I listen to Dave Ramsey. I don't believe everything he says. I don't agree with it, but I take my little nuggets. I listen to Grant Cardone. I don't believe everything he says. I take my little nuggets. So it's all about absorbing all of the information and then tailoring it to yourself.
Exactly. You got to think about the buffet, dude. You got to think about the buffet, everyone. You show up to the buffet and then you can see everything that's in front of you, but you won't pick and choose what you like, right? So think about learning like that.
That's phenomenal. That's a great example. All right, Justine, question number 3. If there's one thing you could advise everyone to avoid doing to build wealth, what would that be?
I'd say listening and comparing yourself to others. I mentioned this earlier. Stay in your lane and block out the noise. Your journey is your journey for a reason. You don't know necessarily where people come from. And so listen to what they have to say, and learn from that. Do your homework. But at the end of the day, don't compare yourself to others. Comparison is that expression goes, it's the thief of joy, right? So that's what I would say when you're building your wealth and you're thinking about growing your money. Learn from others, but also block out the noise and don't compare yourself. Don't compare. It's just like your listener said, your guest said previously, don't compare your beginning to someone else's end or their middle. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I love it. I absolutely agree with 100% with what you just said. Question number 4. If there's someone out there that doesn't believe that they can reach financial peace due to their age, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc., what would you say to change their mind?
Be curious and stay curious. So I've said this, we walk the same earth, we breathe the same air, we have the same 24 hours in a day. With that, all of us have curiosity within us. We have it, it's there. It's there. I don't care what someone says. I'm not curious. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. There are just certain things you're curious for. So what I say is be curious and stay curious. There's literally like the world is your oyster. There's so much you can learn no matter how old you are. No matter how old you are. Let me tell you something. Before the pandemic, I went to visit my aunt in Hawaii. She's 80 years old. We were doing yoga and homegirl was doing all kinds of positions. And I literally at one point was like, I am hurting right now. And she's over here breathing. She's like flexible. She got the block under her back. And I was just like, yo, she's 80. So I think what's important is that it doesn't matter how old you are, what your religion is, what your race is, your ethnicity. If you want to learn something, you're going to learn it. If you want to do something, you're going to do it. And you just have to stay curious. Just stay curious. Question everything. Like, how did you, like, how are you so, mobile at 80, auntie? You just ask questions, talk to old, and I would say that, by the way, talk to someone older than you, talk to someone younger than you, talk to someone who comes from a different race, talk to someone who believes in a different God, talk to literally everyone. Don't just subject yourself to keep yourself to the same group of people, because obviously they're going to share the same way of thinking. You know what I mean? So step out of your comfort zone, stay curious.
I really love that stay curious saying, because it's kind of like, it goes back to a saying, is like, don't ask, can I do something? Ask, how can I do something?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
instead of asking for permission, you're asking for advice. You're staying curious. Like, how did you do this? Because then they're going to give you reputable steps. Because if you ask me, can I do something? I'm just going to say, yes, you can. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm not going to tell you how I did it. But if you ask me, how did you, or how can I do this? Now you're turning it from a yes or no question to tactical steps. And that's what satisfies curiosity, is tactical steps. Because yeah, I love it. I love the stay curious thing. Justine, this has been such an amazing interview. You have such an explosive personality, and you are very harsh, but you are real. And I ask you, please do not change, because unfortunately, it's a lot. People have been getting used to being coddled. And so when someone like you says the hard truths about things, they might come off as, some may deem harsh, but you've said nothing harsh this whole interview. It's always been, true statements, real things that can be proven. So I want to start by saying, please do not change that about you, because we need more people to be honest and harsh, because honestly, that shows love.
Oh my gosh, that just means so much to me. I think, people in my life, they know, they're like, man, Justine is like the kindest person, but she will tell you what's up. And, sometimes it does come off harsh and it hurts, but I come from a place of love, and it just means a lot that you think the same way about me, man. Because I think I pride myself in being a kind but also very honest, forthcoming person, and I just keep it real, because there's already so much fluff out there. I want to be that person that's going to be like, listen, like 100 XYZ. You know what I mean? I want to keep it 100 with you. And I'm sorry that hurt, but maybe it hurt because you need to reflect and think about something that's going on in your life. You know what I mean? And I hope that kind of hurts you a little bit, shifts you, shakes you, and then says, ooh, maybe I need to like think about that,
Yeah, and it goes back to, we keep coming back to the same point, is like, choose your hurt. Because Justine, if somebody comes to you for advice and you have two choices, either you can give them the fluff and they continue making mistakes, or continue being in the same spot they are in a hurtful form, or you can risk offending them, but giving them the raw truth, the honest, it is what it is. And you have to choose your hurt. And as long as you're okay with risking to offend people, like I said, I visualize that as love. That means you care about that person. You know, you care about their well-being. You want the best for them. And if it hurts their feelings, then it probably is more likely to get across, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, because now they have this emotion, this feeling that they don't normally get when they're around others, for example. So it's funny, if you actually talk to like my friends, they'll tell you at least once in our friendship, in our lifetime, it's like, oh shit, yeah, Justine talked to me. Like we had that, like, oh, it hurt a little bit, it hurt, but at the same time, it like helped them. So, thank you so much, James. Like, it really does mean a lot to hear that from you, and like it means the world. It means I'm doing something right.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of things right, Justine. So where can people find out more about you? Because I know after this interview, they're going to want to.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you can absolutely find me on Twitter. So you can get me on Twitter at Miss Financial Fit. And then on Instagram, you'll find me at Miss Financial Fitness. And then you can also email me, missfinancialfitness@gmail.com. And then I also do a free one-on-one like financial needs analysis coaching session. And so if you're interested in that and you want to just talk to someone, you could talk to me. And I offer those, and you can find me on calendly.com/Miss Financial Fitness. So that's where you can catch me.
And of course, guys, you guys will not have to go far. I'm going to have all of the links to her social medias, her email, and her Calendly in the show notes below, where you guys can schedule that one-on-one free, free advice, free sit down, or you can email her questions, reach out to her on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm sure she'll be able to help you guys. Justine, this has been such an amazing interview. I'm pretty sure I'm going to break it down into two separate interviews because I just think it was awesome. And I want it to be like a two-part thing because this has been so great. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and coming on and having a conversation because I've learned so much from you, and I'm sure others are going to learn so much from this conversation too.
Yo, thank you so much for having me on here. Like, I had a blast. I can't believe it's been like 2.5 hours. Like, this was dope. Like, this was fun. I'm just so grateful that you had me on here. And James, really thank you so much. And I hope that, your listeners will have, those nuggets that they can take away with this podcast.
I know they will. And again, the pleasure is all mine. And hopefully I can have you on in the future. Once, your journey has progressed, you finally hit you said 255 deadlift or 260 deadlift. I mean, hey, I expect it from you, right? With your consistency and I expect it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to come on again, and be able to chat with you.
Okay. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. And thanks again.
Absolutely. You as well.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And guys, that concludes part 2 of my interview with Justine. I really hope that you guys got a lot of value. I felt so fulfilled after having this conversation because this is a conversation that, many people aren't really having. And she talks about so many of the different struggles with the Filipino culture and all of the correlations between finances and fitness. It's awesome that one of her goals is to build a school, right? Build a school back in the Philippines where, education can be more accessible. And you have to understand, guys, that's the type of options that wealth gives you, right? No offense, but if you're poor, living paycheck to paycheck, the odds of you waking up one day and building a school, giving back to that level is highly, highly unlikely. And that's not to say you can't get there, but it's going to be very hard to get there in your current predicament. With that being said, guys, she also talked about something really powerful, which is kind of the idea of Filipino women being sold for financial freedom. And I think that that's not the only culture that might have that stigma, but I do think it's something that is real. You know, a lot of times women are used as a gateway to getting to wealthier men and or wealthier women. So having that discussion was so powerful, and hopefully it gives you guys the courage, if you are in that predicament or you know someone who's in that predicament that just wants financial freedom, you can give them the option to say, listen, you don't have to sell yourself. You don't have to become a wife to someone you don't love just to reach that. There are other ways. And that's like the great thing about this podcast. We can bring on so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And that's why I always talk about their backgrounds, to help illustrate the fact that no matter where you come from, there is a path to financial freedom from where you are. And of course, guys, we talked about all of the different correlations between finances and fitness. We talked about prioritizing, consistency, measuring your progress, having a strong motivation. I always ask people, what is your why? Why do you want to be financially free? Well, I just want to quit my job. That's not strong enough. Go deeper. Why do you want to quit your job? Oh, because I want to spend more time with my family. Go deeper. Why do you want to spend more time with your family? Because my family didn't have the time to spend with me, and I think I would have turned out better. That's how far you need to go. You need to figure out why you want what you want, and then why you want it again, and why you want it again, until you get down to the soul of that. So I really hope you guys enjoy. Of course, I do offer financial coaching to people who want to have one-on-one with me personally, James Bowman. You guys can schedule that down in the show notes on my Calendly. It's completely free, 30-minute telephone consultation. Also, whatever you guys are listening on, if you leave a review, it'd be greatly appreciated. I don't think you guys understand how much the rating and reviews really help the show expand and get to other people. So I really appreciate that. And of course, guys, if you guys aren't subscribed to our YouTube, that's down in the show notes. And if you're not following us on social media, you can follow us down in the show notes on all social medias. That is all greatly appreciated. And of course, if you reach out to me on those social medias, I will be the one to answer those messages. All right. You're not going to get a bot. You're not going to get a virtual assistant. You're going to get me personally, and you'll be asking me questions or commenting to me personally. So I do answer all of those. And I appreciate everybody who's reached out up to this point. But I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, guys. My name is James Bowman. I'm your host. And always remember, you're only as secure as your ability to perform. So spend your life accumulating assets that can perform for you. Later, guys.